Okay, so we've been practicing taking a quadratic function from standard form to vertex form. So we're going to repeat the process again. All the steps are on the previous page. Step 1 was we have to group the x squared and the x together. So we can then complete the square of this to make it a trinomial. So we can factor it. So step 1, step 2 says factor out a. A is 1, so I don't need to factor out a. So now I'm going to rewrite it and leave a space. So x squared minus 3x, and then there's a blank, close the parentheses, minus 2, and a blank. Okay, so the work that goes in that blank is I take b. b is negative 3, and I divide it by 2. So this is going to be a fraction. This is just this fraction, negative 3 divided by 2. I could turn it to a decimal, but that's not going to work for us because it's a repeating decimal. So I have to keep it as the fraction squared. So when I square a fraction, I'm multiplying the top. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9, and 2 times 2 is 4. So I get 9/4. And this is what I'm going to add, 9/4. And this is what I'm going to subtract on this side, 9/4. Okay, so we're now gonna factor this. The awesome thing, and I'm gonna show you something cool about a pattern. When we do this work over here, we squared a number. We squared a number to get to 9/4. So that's a big clue about what our factor will be. Let's scroll back on the previous page and see, does that work? We squared negative 3 to make 9. When we factored, negative 3 was our factor. Over here, we squared negative 3 to make 9. Negative 3 ended up being our factor. Over here, we squared negative 4 to make 16. Negative 4 was our factor. Over here, we squared 2 to make 4. 2 was our factor. So that, the thing that we're completing the square, the work in the corner, that tells me what it's going to factor into. So this is going to be x minus 3 halves, because 3 halves times 3 halves is 9/4. So that'll be squared. And then we need to go ahead and subtract negative 2 minus 9/4. If you put that in the calculator, it will give you 17/4 when you find a common denominator. So this is our vertex form. Even though it has fractions, that's okay. It can be in vertex form. H in this is 3 halves, and K is negative 17/4. So my vertex is 3 halves, comma, negative 17/4. And just because we like to graph whole numbers doesn't mean we can't have fractions or decimals as our points for our vertex. We just normally don't see it when we're graphing it because it's hard to graph negative 17/4. All right, repeating the process. Step 1, group the first two terms together, the x squared and the x term. Step 2, factor out a. A is negative 1, so that's my next step is I'm going to factor out negative 1, which is going to turn this to a positive x squared and a positive 9x. I'm going to go ahead and leave my space because I know on the next step I'd have to rewrite and leave a blank. So might as well put it in this step. All right, now to get what goes in the blank, we take b divided in half. 9 divided by 2 is 9 halves. We're going to square that. So when we square it, I get 18/4. Not 18, dyslexia, 81/4. Okay, so that's the number that we're going to hear. We're going to add 81/4. We're going to subtract 81/4. And we have to multiply that by the a we factored out. Okay, so f of x equals, we have this negative 1 out front. I'm going to drop the 1, but I'm going to leave the negative. X plus, what did we square to get 81/4? We squared 9 halves, so 9 halves is going to be our factor. That is that parentheses squared. Now we have to go ahead and do these calculations. This ends up being a positive 81/4 when we multiply that. So a negative 22 plus 81/4 is going to simplify out to be 7/4. So this is my vertex form, where h is equal to negative halves and k is equal to negative 7/4. So my vertex is negative 9/2, comma negative 7/4. Okay, we're going to repeat the process. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Okay, problem number 7. Group the first two together. That's all there is. Need to leave a blank. F of x equals x squared plus 5x and a blank. Plus, there was no term at the end, 0, and we leave a blank. All right, completing the square. So, half of 5, so 5 divided by 2 is just 5 divided by 2 that we're going to square. So when we square that, I get 25/4. So plus 25/4 minus 25/4. Didn't factor out a, so I don't have to multiply that by anything. All right, bringing down my equation, we're now going to factor this. X plus, what did we square to get 25/4? Well, that was 5 halves. 5 halves squared. And then 0 minus 25/4 would just be a negative 25/4. This is my vertex form. H is negative 5 halves, and K is negative 25/4. So my vertex is negative 5 halves, comma, negative 25/4. All right. Continuing right along, group the first two together. Factor out a. A is 4, so my next step is to factor out a 4. 4x squared divided by 4 is x squared. Negative 8 divided by 4 would be negative 2x. Need to leave a blank, close that. Plus 0, leave a blank. Okay. Take b, the existing b. What b is now? Negative 2. So over here, I'm going to write it in a different color. Negative 2 divided by 2 will be negative 1. We square that answer. Positive 1. Going to add 1 here, going to subtract 1 there. And multiply it by 4. Because we took a 4 out. So I have to account for that. Okay, so f of x equals 4. We're going to factor this trinomial. So x minus, because our middle term is negative, 1. Because what did we square? To get 1, we squared negative 1. We're going to square that. Minus 4. This is my vertex form, and my vertex is 1, comma, negative 4. All right, so we're making good progress. We're going to continue with these last few, just repeating, and then we're going to look at the graph on 11 and 12. So let's quickly go through these, group the two together, factor out a. So negative 2, factor that out. So I'm going to have an x squared. 20 divided by negative 2 would be a negative 10x. Don't close the parentheses, need a blank. Close the parentheses, minus 46, leave a blank. Okay, completing the square says take b, negative 10, divide by 2, gives me negative 5. Square that number, that's 25. We're going to add 25 on this side. We're going to subtract 25 on this side, and then we have to multiply by negative 2. Okay. So f of x equals, the negative 2 stays out front. We're going to factor this trinomial. We know it's going to be x minus, and then 5, close the parentheses, squared. This is really negative 46 plus 50. That's what those guys would be. So negative 46 plus 50 would be a positive 4 left over. This is my vertex form, and my vertex in this form is a positive 5, a positive 4. Okay. The fraction in this one, we're just going to go the same way. We're going to work with this fraction. So group the first two together. Factor out a. So we got to factor out negative 1/2 x squared. So negative 4 divided by negative 1/2. When you do that, I'm going to get a positive 8. Make sure you put that in your calculator. Make sure. Negative 4 divided by negative 1/2, or negative 4 multiplied by a negative 2. Remember, you flip and multiply when we're dealing with fractions. That has an x. Now we need to leave a blank. Close the parentheses, minus 5, leave a blank. Let's go ahead and remind ourselves that on that blank, we're going to multiply by negative 1/2, what we factored out in the beginning. Okay, so B is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Square that, so that's going to be 16. So we're going to add 16 on this side and subtract 16 on this side. Now, simplifying where I can and factoring the trinomial. So this is going to be x plus 4 squared. Negative 16 times a negative 1/2 would be a positive 8. Negative 5 plus 8 would be a positive 3. So this is my vertex form, and my vertex is negative 4, 3. Okay. We're not going to repeat the process again, but now we're adding on using that vertex to create our table and to make our graph. That's going to be one more video. I'm going to stop here, make one more video for the last two.